Hello there and welcome back to the Net Report. Chris here, and today I am joined with my co-host Jacob, and we're here to discuss our predictions for the conference championship weekend and who we have advancing to the Super Bowl. We're going to start with probably the more hyped up matchup, Chiefs versus Ravens, and I'll start with my pick first. This is a very tough pick for me. Like last week when we were debating Bills versus Chiefs, this is honestly 51-49 for me. I'm going to go with the Ravens, and what it really comes down to for me is last week we saw Lamar light up the Texans. He finally had a great playoff game, which was great for him. He was a menace on the ground. He rushed for 100 yards last week. And I think it's going to come down to the Chiefs aren't going to be able to contain him. And as far as weapons for the Chiefs, I mean, this Ravens team has a really great linebacking core. They're of course not going to stop Kelsey because there's no stopping Kelsey, but I think they'll, to an extent, be able to limit him, and you'll be forcing Rashee Rice and everyone else in the receiving room to beat you, and it's going to be very tough. But I want to hear your pick too, Jacob.
Since I've been a diehard Ravens supporter this entire playoffs, picking them every pick of the way, never having a doubt in my mind, I always knew Lamar Jackson would be a god in the playoffs. Don't quote me on that or look back. It's just the facts. I say so. I agree. This is probably the harder of the two matchups, and of course it is. I mean, it's the 1 seed versus the best quarterback alive right now, or active alive quarterback rather. Hashtag Tom Brady still the GOAT. So it's difficult. The best player on the field, sure, it's Patrick Mahomes. The best team, it's the Ravens. Does that always mean the Ravens are going to win? No, but I really do think this game's going to come down to which team's receivers step up the most. If the Chiefs' receivers step up, and by receivers I mean people not named Rashee Rice and Travis Kelsey, if we see MVS get 62 yards again, or McCole Hardman not forget how to play football, or just anyone, Watson or Noah Gray, kind of get involved in this passing offense, I'm going to change my mind, but I don't think that happens. I think that the Ravens linebacking core, and assuming Marlon Humphrey comes back next week, their defensive backs, I just think the Ravens have this. I will be eating my words next week when very predictably the Chiefs win, because of course they will. But I'm going to say the Ravens win, and it's for a lot of the reasons you also stated. I have more confidence, I think is what it is, in the Ravens skill players. I have more confidence that OBJ can give them 40, 50 yards. I have more confidence that Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews will get them involved in the passing offense. Their rushing offense, if it's not stopped, if they rush the ball for 40 times like they did last week against the Texans, the Chiefs will have no chance.
No, of course.
If the Chiefs cannot stop the run, whether that's Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, or Justice Hill, or whoever else they get involved in the rushing game, there's no chance the Chiefs will win this game. If they can limit them to 2-3 yards a carry and keep them under 30 rushing attempts, this is a game. Make Lamar beat you with his arm. That's always been the game. Make Lamar beat you by the arm, then sure, if you lose by that, you lose by that. But that's how this game is going to be played. Do not let him beat you with his legs. He's going to beat you if you allow that to happen.
Yep.
If you can contain him, keep him in the pocket, keep him behind the sticks, you've got a chance. And then it's going to really come down to, can the Chiefs receivers make a play? Do I think maybe they can contain Lamar? I don't expect him to go for 100 yards on the ground again by any means. I just don't think they contain the rush offense of this very dynamic Ravens backfield enough to win this game.
And that's kind of what it comes down to for me as well. Like, I think Lamar still, I'm not going to say have his way, because this Chiefs defense is very, very good. But if you're asking me if I think this Chiefs defense could really stop Lamar on the ground enough to where he's going to have to beat you with his arm, I just don't see it. I think that's how they've been running their offense all year. And
100%. They've been running it that way, and this defense for the Ravens has been ferocious. Kyle Hamilton has been an absolute nightmare for receivers and anyone involved. And yeah, if you allow the game to be dictated by Lamar beating you with his arm, that opens up for more possibilities of Lamar trying to overcompensate, maybe squeezing a ball in somewhere where it can't be squeezed. That means picks potentially. That means batted down balls. All these things. I just don't. I don't expect it to happen. But yeah, I agree with you. We cannot understate how many good players are on this Chiefs defense. I just think it's overshadowed by how many true dogs are on this Ravens defense.
And like you said, I didn't even mention Kyle Hamilton, but like Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, the middle of the field, the Chiefs working the middle of the field is going to be very difficult, even with Travis Kelce.
You're going to have to get Travis Kelce out. Get him in a slant to the outside, post him out, something, because if you just let him run in the middle of the field, he's going to get killed.
I don't know if I'd say killed, but it's going to be tough to work the middle of the field.
If that's how they run the offense, if they try to run it through him, yes, he's going to. There's no way he's going to be open enough times. More so the offense will get killed. He'll be fine. He's a big, strong guy. Clearly stronger than you or I put together.
I think I'd take Travis Kelce on the over there, definitely. You're kind of bringing us down a little. No, I'm kidding. But I definitely think that's going to be the main thing, and if you're forcing one of these Chiefs receivers on the outside to really beat you and to make a play, you're relying on MVS on a deep shot. You're relying on maybe Justin Watson out there. Rashee Rice has been great, but a lot of his targets are typically shorter targets that go for bigger yards. With that being the case, and the Ravens, they still got weapons, and Zay Flowers, OBJ, Lamar's going to use his legs. I trust this Ravens offense a little bit more, especially with how ferocious their defense is. Like I said, both these defenses are incredible. I honestly probably see this more as a defensive game, and if it ends up in a game like 17-13, low scoring, I mean, I really think it could be anyone's game, but I have a little bit more faith in the Ravens.
I have more faith in the Ravens kicker. I have more faith in the Ravens linebackers. And with having more faith in the Ravens linebackers, that means that when things aren't opening up downfield like I expect them not to for the Chiefs, when Patrick Mahomes try to do Patrick Mahomes things and work his little magic, I just think the linebackers are going to contain it. I don't see Mahomes running all across the field like he sometimes does in these playoff games to kind of ignite this offense on his own, which he has. Like, they've won Super Bowls because of that. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, though. Someone's got to step up for this Chiefs offense in the receiving core, and if you asked me to bet against them, I would 100 out of 100 times. I just don't see someone stepping up in this team.
That's another very underrated point you mentioned a little earlier. We saw it in the Dolphins game. Patrick Mahomes was able to scramble a couple times for some huge plays, and I don't see that happening as much, especially against this Ravens defense, especially with that linebacking core being able. They're going to have someone able to contain him at least to some degree. So it's going to be tough. Like I said, 51-49, but I'm going with the Ravens, man. I think Lamar can do it, and I think he quiets a lot of haters this week.
Which means that you will be seeing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs almost guaranteed next week.
Yeah, we jinxed. I'm sorry, Ravens fans, for jinxing y'all, but we had to jinx someone.
That leads us into probably our more predictable, but still I think a very fun matchup, NFC Championship. 49ers and Lions. What I'll say off the top of the key, when you get into these championship games, anything can happen.
Most definitely.
It's one and done. With any of these playoff games, we've seen some very, very crazy things happen just in the past few years, but definitely in the past decade or two. Like Minnesota Miracle, a Blake Bortles-led team was a pass away from really making it to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. If it's not for Stephon Gilmore just being truly goated, that's a different story we have here. So I don't want to discount the Lions because anything can happen. But I just think that their magic has run its course. This Niners team, while exposed last week against that Packers team, you kind of talked me out of it when we talked privately, where they've had a few down games where they're resting guys, they weren't fully prepared, and that, in all honesty, comes down to coaching and conditioning, and I feel like that's not a valid excuse if they had lost last week. But I think we will see a more prepared and just a more aggressive team from the Niners. I more so mean that from the defensive side of the ball, because the Niners defense looked pretty non-existent last week. I know the stats won't say it because Love just didn't light up the field, but they don't really involved this defensive line, which has been one of their greatest strengths for weeks all season, kind of just was non-existent last week. I think that changes this week. The Lions do have one of the better offensive lines to support Jared Goff, but I think they'll be more of a factor. And with that, I think this linebacker core led by Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw will be a immense factor. A lot of the offense of the line runs through their running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and their tight end, Sam Laporta. The linebackers of Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw will dictate this game. If they can stop them, tackle well, and not allow yards after catch, that's going to be the game. Jared Goff's going to throw 35 plus times. He's probably going to throw for 250 plus yards because he's part of the West Coast air raid offense.
That's their identity.
His time in the Rams. That's just who he is. And it's worked for the Lions. I just don't see a way where, unless the Lions defense is getting the Niners to commit turnovers, the Lions win this game. I don't think it'll be low scoring. I don't think either of these games will be very low scoring, if we're being very honest. But I'm always an offensive optimistic guy. I really, really want the Lions to win this because I just have a soft heart for them. Their story's great. The Niners just they're the better team. They're better from a fundamental standpoint. They're better coached. There's not one skill position or position in general. The Lions, I think, are better than the Niners. To be very I can't think of a single one.
I wouldn't say not definitively, but
it's nothing comes to the top of my head, to be honest with you. And a lot of this is going to come down to, what do we see from Brock Purdy? I wouldn't say he looked flustered last week, but he just didn't look great. A lot of passes were very just inaccurate, or the receivers weren't on the same route. And Deebo Samuel did get hurt very early in that game, but he's been hurt a lot of games this season, so you should be accustomed to that. If Deebo doesn't play, which he is likely to from everything I've read, Ayuk's got to step up. Ayuk and Kittle really have to step up. McCaffrey's going to do his McCaffrey things. Niners, obviously I'm picking the Niners. I know you're picking the Niners too. There's
You even let me say, man. Come on. No,
I know,
but
man. Man, I want the Lions to win this game so bad.
No, yeah. I like Jacob said, I definitely agree. I have the Niners winning this game. I do think the Lions can definitely keep it closer, especially after seeing really what they did to the Bucs and how they've just been this season. I don't think the 49ers are the juggernaut we kind of thought they were heading into this playoffs, but they're the better team on paper. And like you mentioned, they've been shaking a lot of the rust off, especially having not played in a few weeks. I know you said that's not a great excuse, which I agree, but it happened, and I think this is a game where we really see them get back to form. I think the Lions can make it close, but I'm expecting that offense to kick it into gear, especially if Deebo's there. If Deebo's not there, it can get a little tricky because we've seen how they've been without Deebo, but they were also without Trent Williams, I believe, for part of that time as well. So honestly, I'd argue Trent Williams is a way bigger loss, but I mean, he's going to be here now, so that's what's important. And when it comes to this Niners team, I mean, they're just stacked. There's nothing you can really do. I don't really see how the Lions can scheme against the likes of Deebo, Kittle, McCaffrey. I mean, it's going to be rough. I think they'll be able to air it out. If this game turns into a shootout, I will say I think the Lions can keep up offensively. I don't trust them to get that one stop once it comes time, because this team's just so loaded offensively.
That's where I think I hinge too. In the event this does become a shootout, and God, that would be amazing, because both these offenses are so beautiful when they're working with all cogs just spinning the way they should be. I agree. The Lions, their only real chance is to keep this a shootout, because I think they can keep up the pace.
And we know Dan Campbell will go for it if he has to, and I mean, that's important. That plays a big factor.
I do think coaching will be a huge part of this. Dan Campbell's got balls of steel, and we've seen it in playoffs past and just regular season games. Kyle Shanahan has a weird habit of just forgetting how to coach sometimes. as good as he is and as good as he schemes and his offensive playbook is, he kind of just like disappears sometimes and like forgets how to coach in certain situations, whether it's time management, like game management, whatever you want to call it, or just play calling. Things get very weird sometimes for him. I mean, this is always the fun playoff round, it's the championship round, because these are admittedly some of the four best teams, and anything can happen in conference weekends. Any of these four teams can make the Super Bowl. I just think both the Chiefs and Lions are battling at an uphill battle.
No, I got you. Yeah, most definitely. The Lions are fighting an uphill battle here, and as much as I love them, I think there's a part of us all rooting for Detroit. Of course, if you're not a 49ers fan, just because the story's awesome, they haven't been around.
They're a Packers fan.
I mean, yeah, that's fair too, but it's just awesome seeing a team that hasn't been in the playoffs so long do so great. And, I don't want to see it end, but realistically, it's the 49ers to lose. And I know everyone's been joking because we've seen the Super Bowl logo. It has the purple and red for Ravens 49ers, but, that's the way it's looking right now. And those are our picks, so...
Rematch of Joe Flacco and Colin Kaepernick. That's crazy to think, just very tangential. John Harbaugh was still the coach of that team then, bro. Jim Harbaugh was coming back into the league, and he was the coach of that Niners team. God,
most definitely.
And John Harbaugh has been the coach of this team for as long as I can remember.
Yep.
I couldn't tell you who the coach of the Ravens was before John Harbaugh.
Definitely a little before our time. But those are our picks for the NFL Conference Championship games, and hopefully we come back next week and we're 2-0 with our picks, but knowing our luck, maybe that won't be the case, but who knows? I'm excited just to see who's going towards the Super Bowl. I know you are too, Jacob.
Definitely excited to see what comes afterwards. Please like, subscribe, listen, share. We would love anything you can do for us. You can obviously find us at the Net Report on Instagram and YouTube. You can find me at Jacob Kelly USF on Twitter/X. This is my co-host, Christopher.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter/X at C_Rod223. Thank you for listening, and hit that subscribe and like button. We appreciate all the support.